Hey there nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we are back with another episode of Way of the Underhive. This series is dedicated to helping brand new players to Necromunda build their starting rosters and learn more about the game mechanics of their favorite gangs. And on this episode, we will be discussing playing a Fallen Houses Outcast gang in your campaigns of Necromunda Ash Wastes. We will discuss the gang's strengths and weaknesses, the different fighters, their playstyle, and provide critical information that you can use in your campaign. At the same time, we'll also give you guys a 1400 point starting roster that you can use in your very first campaign of Necromunda Ash Wastes. So with that being said, let's get this video review on a roll. Alright, so let's talk about the strengths of playing a delegation outcast gang. So potentially it's one of the most powerful starting gangs that you can actually have in a campaign, and the reason why is because of the fighters that make up your delegations. Regardless if you're playing criminal, merchant, or noble house delegations, they usually all start off with excellent equipment and skills right from the start. In some cases they have some really good stats, and they have some very powerful special rules that can make them really advantageous and very competitive in an Ash Waste campaign. At the same time, you can also take advantage of weird disciplines now because the Book of the Outcast release those weird disciplines. You can even customize your fighters even further. And in addition to adding vehicles with heavier weapon options and different boons and weapon gears from those vehicles, could also give your delegation gang a huge advantage out in the Ash Wastes of Necromunda. And these are some of the advantages and strengths of actually playing a delegation outcast gang. Alright, so perhaps the biggest weakness of actually playing a delegation gang that's an outcast gang is that you cannot take any alliances whatsoever. If you decide to use the delegation as the core of your gang, no alliances are available to you. So for example, if you're a merchant guild delegation gang, you can't take criminal alliances or noble house alliances, and vice versa for all the other ones as well. So that's one of the biggest weaknesses of playing a delegation gang. If you really like using alliances to help your gang out, this might not be the one for you. However though, like I said before in the strengths, it does give you a leg up in the actual beginning of a campaign because you have better fighters, better equipment, and better skills. Now, one of the weaknesses of this gang, of course, is that if you decide to play WYSIWYG, which is an acronym for what you see is what you get type of gangs, this can be quite pricey in my opinion. And the reason why is because, for example, if you were to play a Nauticon siphoning delegation, for example, as the core of your gang, and you want to buy the Forge World miniatures in order to fill that gang, those Forge World miniatures can be quite expensive. So because of that, I would suggest looking for cheaper alternatives or convert your own in most cases. A lot of these delegations have not been manufactured yet, so you could possibly do that, but that's just something you might want to take into account. Me, of course, I would never actually do that. I would just convert my own or find alternate ways to get cheaper miniatures, and that's the thing I would keep in mind when I would be playing a delegation gang. At the same time, these gangs are also very expensive to field in terms of credits. These delegations, like I said, have a lot of skills, a lot of weapons, better stats, and you're going to pay for those. For example, I think the cheapest of the delegations starts off at like 540 credits, I believe. So because of that, it's going to be very, very expensive for you to fill these fighters, but that's the way it goes. And lastly, probably the biggest weakness of actually playing an outcast delegation gang is that you do have to be aware of the balanced bandwagon. A lot of balanced bandwagon types will scream overpowered or game breaking or unfair and so on and so forth. But of course, once again, just ignore those immaturity of those players, drink the salt of their tears, and just use that to power yourself in destroying your enemies. So these are some of the strengths and weaknesses involved in playing a delegation gang. Alright, so when it comes to delegation gangs, once again, you get to pick from merchant guilds, criminal syndicates, or noble houses, and use those delegations you get from those alliances to form the core of your gang. Leaders also get archetypes and affiliations depending on what delegation you choose. Also, champions also get archetypes as well, so that allows for a lot of customization for your different members of your delegations depending on the affiliations and the archetypes that you choose. Now, once again, remember, archetypes depend on what kind of primary and secondary skills your champions and your leaders receive, while affiliations usually determine what kind of weapons and equipment you can get from the starting list, if not from the trading post as well. At the same time, the nice thing about these delegations is that the members of those delegations gain experience and they can purchase weapons and equipment over time, just like any other gang, so that part is really, really cool. And once again, I have to make sure I stress this a lot. If you decide to take a delegation outcast gang, you cannot make any alliances whatsoever in the future, so just be aware when that actually happens and keep that in mind. Now, when it comes to your actual criminal delegations that you can actually play in your Outcast gang, there's pretty much 5 that you can choose from, all right? Now, granted, there are 6 criminal syndicate factions within the Book of Judgment. However, the Narcolords are not present in this delegation, and the reason why is because their delegation just consists of D3 plus 2 Hive scum that you could just hire, so that's the reason why they don't have that faction available to you. However, for your delegations, though, you can play a Smuggler Shore Party from the Cold Traders, a Factoria Work Gang from the Rogue Factoria faction. You can play a Master Charlatan from the Imperial Imposters faction. You can play a Rebel Lord from the Fallen Houses faction, or a Mind Locked Weird from the Psi Syndicate faction as well. So these are the 5 delegations that you could actually choose from in order to build your gangs. Now, once again, I must remind you, of course, if you decide to do a delegation gang from one of the criminal syndicates, you will not be able to allow to take allies in your list, so keep that in mind. However, there are some advantages. Any weapons, equipment that these gangs actually start off with, their delegations, you can purchase those for all of your Outcast champions and Outcast Hive scum as well. So that's where the kind of the trade-off comes in. So with that being said, let's go ahead and talk about how you can use your criminal delegation specifically in the next slide. So let's go ahead and talk about the Fallen Houses delegation. In this case, it's going to cost you 125 credits because that is the price of your Rebel Lord. Now, your Rebel Lord is going to be the leader of your gang, and your leader is going to be a one-person army. They have a great slew of things that they could actually purchase for themselves as well. They get 4 Digi-Lasers, they got light Carapace armor for 4 up armor save, they have master crafted last pistols, they also have stiletto swords, bolt pistols, thunder hammers, displacer fields, and refractor fields. All of these items are available for your gang to purchase with your Outcast gang. So because of that, your fighters don't cost as much, they can get some really good equipment and make themselves very elite. And you combine this with some good vehicles with some pretty powerful heavy weapons, and you will be owning the battlefield of the Ash Waste with this list. And of course, because of all the different variety of customization you can use for your Rebel Lord, you are spoiled for choices on this one. So that being said, let's go ahead and talk about the Rebel Lord in detail. Alright, so your Rebel Lord is going to cost you 125 credits, and for their statistics, they have a 4-inch wound allowance, 3 plus weapon skill and ballistic skill, 3 strength, 3 toughness, 3 wounds, 3 plus initiative, 2 attacks, 7 leadership, 6 cool, 6 willpower, as well as 6 intelligence. Now, like I said before, the Rebel Lord will be the leader of your gang, and I suggest actually giving this person the weird archetype where they focus on biomancy. This will make your fighter a supremely excellent mobile fighter and getting where you need to get to and also cause the most harm. Now, with that willpower 6 plus, you have a 72% chance of success on getting your willpower and your second abilities off. So always try to increase your willpower when leveling up to make it more reliable. And with the starting set that this fighter has, that should be your main focus because they're pretty good at strength and toughness as well as combat, as well as wounds. Now, if you don't want to use a weird archetype for that, Brawler archetype would also be really good to use. That way you have access to leadership, ferocity, and brawn as your primary skills. Now, for your leadership, if you wanted to focus on that, I would suggest commanding presence. Commanding presence is good for larger group activations. For ferocity, I would recommend choosing maybe Nerves of Steel because that's really good for escaping pinning, because once your opponents see how tough your leader is, they're definitely going to be shooting at this person. And if you want to use the bronze skills, I suggest Bolt Charge because having +1 strength and knockback on your 4 Digi-Lasers and melee weapons can't be underestimated, especially if you can knock people off their vehicles as well. Now, when it comes to their equipment, the Rebel Lords automatically starts off with light Carapace armor for 4 up armor save. They also have 4 Digi-Lasers as well, which is perfect. And you can either choose one of 2 kits, either 2 mastercrafted last pistols and a stiletto sword, or a bolt pistol and a thunder hammer. Either kit is good depending on your playstyle, whether you want your fighter to be more of a shooter or more of a close combat fighter. It's pretty much up to you how you want to do it, so pick the one that you like the most. Now, when it comes to their field armor, they do get a choice between displacer fields or refractor fields. Now, in my opinion, the refractor field is better because you got that 5 up ward save, and it won't knock your low Rebel Lord off your vehicle either. The displacer field has a higher ward save with a 4 up, but you get pushed off in a random direction depending on the strength of the weapon that attacked you, moving you that many inches. And for a fight that's mounted on a vehicle, that could be pretty bad. So that's the reason why I go with the refractor field on that one. Now, when it comes to your skills, you can choose 2 skills of your choice from agility, combat, cunning, or shooting. In my opinion, spring up, sprint from agility are the best ones there. Gunfighter, fast shot are the best ones from the shooting stat line. Parry as well as raining blow is the best ones from combat. Infiltrate and evade are the best ones from cunning in my opinion, and all are excellent choices depending on your individual playstyle. Now, if you decide to use the biomancy discipline to make your Rebel Lord into a weird, which I highly recommend, you can roll 2 injury dice instead of 1 when you pick your injury roll, which is going to be very, very helpful for your fighter as well. Now, there's a couple of ways you can go about using biomancy powers. You can go with like to call the parkour build where you use ARANTHUS as your power, which gives you the clamber, catfall, and mighty leap skills, so that way your fighter can move across terrain very quickly. You also like to call the general purpose build, which is the quickening power, which adds 3 to your movement, making your movement 7. Also adds +1 to your weapon skill and ballistic skill, making your weapon skill ballistic skill 2+, which is always handy. And then you also have what I like to call the defensive build with the power Iron Arm, which gives you a 5-up ward save, which is unmodified armor piercing, and having another 5-up armor save is always a good thing. So you have like a 5+ ward save unaffected by AP. If that fails, you have a refractor field that can help you out as well, and if that doesn't help you out, you also have field armor as well. So you have a 4+, 5+, 5+ armor save. Cannot be underestimated. So any one of those combinations is really, really good. It's pretty much up to you what kind of play style you want. And so with that being said, let's talk about the other fighters available for your game. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the Underhive Outcast Champion real quick. For these gangs, these guys cost 60 credits apiece, and for their stats, they have 5-inch movement, 3+ weapon skill, 4+ ballistic skill. They have 3 strength, 3 toughness. They also have 2 wounds, they have 4 initiative, 1 attack. They have 6 leadership, 7 cool, 8 willpower, as well as 8 intelligence. So let's go on and talk about these guys real quick. So when it comes to the Underhive Outcast Champions, they're very versatile, and the reason why is because their stats are pretty much mediocre. Now that's both a good and a bad thing. While it might be bad because they can't excel at any one given thing, whether it's shooting or close combat, it does allow them to be able to equip a large variety of weapons and fulfill any role that you need them to fulfill within your gang as well. Now when it also comes to your guys' Underhive Outcast Champions, archetypes of course are very, very important, but the problem with these guys though is that their archetypes are very limited for their skills in my opinion. For example, they have 5 different archetypes they can choose from, but they only have 1 primary skill in each of those archetypes followed by 2 secondaries. So for example, if you were to take the Brawler archetype, Brawn would be your primary with ferocity and leadership as your secondaries. If you were a Gunslinger archetype, shooting would be your primary with agility as well as leadership as your secondaries. For a Survivor archetype, ferocity would be your primary followed by combat and leadership for your secondaries. For Mastermind, cunning would be your primary with leadership and savant as your secondaries. And of course for weird archetypes, your psychic disciplines would be your primary followed by cunning and leadership as your secondaries. Unfortunately for the champion, there are no archetypes where combat is a primary, so that is kind of limiting on what you can do. So you won't be getting any skills really to increase your combat abilities, but better weapons and equipment choices could probably help out with that as well. Now when it comes to their equipment and weapons, they can purchase pretty much anything they want to off the trading post so long as it's within the rarity value of 8 on the trading post. So they are kind of limited in some of their choices, but the reason why that is the case is because you can take 1 champion for every 3 Hive scum in your gang. So for example, if you have 6 Hive scum in your gang, you can take 2 champions. If you got 9 Hive scum, you can get 3 champions, and etc. So that's basically where the trade-off kind of comes in. And then finally, of course, we have our Underhive Outcast Hive Scum, which is your typical ganger and juvie level fighter for your gang. These guys cost 30 credits apiece. For their stats, they have 5-inch movement, 4+ weapon skill and ballistic skill, 3 strength and toughness. They have 1 wound, 4+ for initiative, 1 attack. They have 8+ for leadership, cool, willpower, and intelligence. And for their skill access, when they become a specialist, their primary is cunning, with ferocity as their secondary. Now, Underhive Scum, Outcast Scum, they're very mediocre, okay? But because of that, they're also very cheap to field. And even though they have very mediocre stats, they count as both gangers and juvie level fighters for your gang, and because their stats are still so mediocre, they can fulfill many different roles in your gang. You can equip them as shooters, close combat, you can use them as support, you can use them as suicide bombers, especially now that you can also put them on waster dirt bikes. They make great pursuers on waster dirt bikes, for example. So there's a variety of things you can do with these guys to fulfill pretty much any role that you want to. And plus, if you decide to make it into a delegation gang, you can also take better weapons equipment from the delegation lists as well. So that's another cool thing about Outcast Hive Scum as well. Now, unfortunately, you cannot start your campaign with an Outcast specialist, so that part is kind of sad. Almost every single gang can have a specialist except for Outcast, so that part is kind of sad, but that's the kind of the trade-off. Yes, you can't get those specialists, but right at the start, but you have so many guys you can choose from, and plus your delegations can fulfill those roles anyways, so it's not that big of an issue. So that makes up your guys' Outcast Hive Scum. Alright, so let's go and talk about our gang roster. I call this the House ARANTHUS Fallen House Gang. It's going to cost you 1,400 credits. And first of all, you have a Rebel Lord. This character is going to cost you 125 credits. And they're going to be equipped with the Brawler Archetype. They're going to have light Carapace armor, 4 Digi-Lasers. Since I want this one to be more of a close combat fighter, I equipped them with Bolt Pistol as well as a Thunder Hammer. They also have a Refractor field as well. You're given the Bull Charge skill as well as Fast Shot as well as Parry. So that way they can charge in, get that +1 strength plus knockback. They got the Fast Shot to fire the Bolt Pistol twice, and the Parry ability to defend themselves with their Thunder Hammer as well. After that, you're going to recruit an Outcast champion. Champion number 1 is going to cost you 185 credits. This fighter's got the Gunslinger archetype. They're equipped with Mesh armor as well as a Plasma gun. And they also have Last Pistol for close combat and a backup weapon, as well as a Fast Shot skill so that way they can fire this thing twice. After that, you got a Outcast champion number 2 is going to cost you 145 credits. This fighter's got the Gunslinger archetype as well. They have Mesh armor as well as Twin Master crafted Hot Shot Last Pistols. So that way they have Strength 4 and they can shoot those as well. And they have the Gunfighter ability so that way they don't get that -1 hit against in order to shoot both pistols at the same time. After that, you have 2 Outcast Scum number 1 and 2. Both cost you 65 credits apiece. Both have Mesh armor. Both have Last Guns as well as stub guns for backup weapons in close combat. And then you have 2 more Hive Scums after that, Outcast Scum number 3 and 4. They're both equipped exactly the same at 75 credits apiece. They both have Mesh armor as well as chain swords and stub guns for close quarters combat. Now then, you're going to have 2 Scum Racers. Scum Racer number 1 is going to cost you 128 credits because this person's driving a Ridge Runner that's equipped with a missile launcher with frag and crack grenades. So that way you can attack dismounted fighters as softer targets or heavier targets like vehicles and buildings. And then finally, you have a Guild of Coin Haulers, which costs you 385 credits. This fighter is going to be driving a Cargo 8 Ridge Hauler with a grenade launcher and a Munitorium armor container in the back for additional armor rolls as well, ammo rolls, as well as buffs to your ammunition as well. So, like I said, you're going to be spending quite a bit on vehicles, and you will be taking away from your gang, but that's the trade-off because you have better vehicles and you have a really awesome leader leading your gang. So let's talk about the gang over real quick. So this list is a little bit different from other criminal outcast lists in the sense that it plays very defensively. The reason for this is both for the narrative as well as due to the high cost of your fighters. Your fighters cost more credits but also are more survivable, not to mention you have a solid foundation to build your gang upwards, much like a fallen house struggling to regain control again. See what I did there? It's kind of like a little narrative going on with this at the same time. Your gang will synergize well with a +2 bonus on all ammo rolls with unlimited reloads and 2 new weapon hardpoints with 360-degree fields of vision, which when the time comes you can upgrade those. At the same time, a Ridge Hauler will generate additional D3 × 10 credits after each battle it participates in, as long as it doesn't get wrecked. You also have a very powerful escort vehicle that will fire both crack missiles as well as 5-inch blast frag missiles at strength 4, and your gang consists of 2 support fire teams because, like I said before, they'll be playing defensively. Now, support fire team number 1 will consist of a Rebel Lord, Outcast Champion number 2, Outcast Scum 3, and Outcast Scum 4, as well as your Guild of Coin Ridge Hauler. Now, this fire team's responsibility is protecting the Cargo 8 Ridge Hauler, fighting from its transport bed. At the same time, the Guild of Coin Hauler will fire off its grenade launcher to support produce suppressing fire with frag grenades or engage hard targets with their crack grenades. Now, the Rebel Lord, the Outcast Champion number 2, Outcast Scum number 3, and Outcast numbers 4 can fight dismounted if need be or board enemy vehicles. I suggest purchasing a boarding ramp for your vehicle as soon as possible so that way you can board enemy vehicles if you need to. The Rebel Lord and the Outcast Champion will perform group activations and engage the enemy in mass. The Rebel Lord will perform most of the killing, taking advantage of Bull Charge to put their +1 strength and knockback for their 4 Digi-Lasers as well as their Thunder Hammer. The Outcast Champion number 2 has paired Hotshot Mastercrafted Last Pistols, which will be great for close combat and short range shooting, but consider purchasing a chainsaw for this fighter when able, so that way they have some more melee weapons they can use at the same time. Scum number 3 and 4 take advantage of the chain swords with their +1 to hit bonus and can cause some serious damage as well. Now, support fire team number 2 consists of your Outcast Champion number 1, Outcast Scum 1, Outcast Scum 2, and your Scum Racer. Now, this fire team's job is to protect the Cargo 8 Ridge Hauler. Outcast Champion number 1 spams their plasma gun, firing fast shot to get off multiple rapid fire shots on their enemies. Meanwhile, Outcast Scum number 1 and 2 use their last guns to pick off enemy targets. I highly suggest purchasing hotshot last packs as well as telescopic sights for these weapons to make them more lethal and more accurate at longer ranges. Now, the real killer in this fire team is going to be your Scum Racer with their missile launcher. Frag missiles cause a 5-inch blast template at strength 4, -1 AP, 1 damage with knockback, which is extremely deadly against dismounted infantry. Meanwhile, the crack missile can cause strength 6, minus 2 AP, 3 damage attacks, which is perfect for enemy vehicles, as well as enemy terrain features as well. Now, keep the Ridge Runner near the Cargo 8 Ridge Hauler's Minatorium armor container for a 4-up ammo check, in case if you roll up a 6-up for the ammo check for your Scum Racer. Unfortunately, the missile launcher does have a 6-up armor save, but putting within the close proximity to the Minatorium armor container will drop that to a 4+ ammo check, and you'll never run out of ammunition for your vehicle as well. And this is what I like to call the House ARANTHUS Fallen House gang at 1,400 credits. So in the end, playing a criminal syndicate delegation outcast gang is one of the greatest ways to add some diversity to a campaign and to Necromunda overall. You have lots of different powerful options with fighters, skills, equipment, as well as vehicles, and even more so now that you have those vehicles, and you can make some really interesting customized gangs. So it'd be actually kind of cool to see exactly what ends up happening now in the Ashways with all this diversity of criminal syndicates going on. So in my opinion, pick your favorite crime syndicate, get that outcast status, get up your gang, and go directly out to the Ashways and try to bring glory and wealth to yourself as a criminal syndicate outcast. The only thing I will warn about, of course, is just watch out for the balanced bandwagon, because they're going to find some reason to gripe and always find a way to try to be salty. So that's good for you guys. As always, please remember to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good for this week, guys. We'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.